Okay, well, I'm going to start up today. So, good day, everybody. I think I know pretty much everybody on the call, but I'm Vicki Palmer, AURP CEO. So, thank you for joining us for our roundtable today. So, for those of you that aren't familiar with AURP, AURP is a nonprofit organization of research parks, innovation districts, and we consider those all communities of practice, all the broader organizations as communities of innovation, excuse me. And we have offices in outside of Washington, D.C., Arizona. We're at Tech Parks, Arizona, and in California now as well. And we have representatives in 44 states throughout the US, 6 provinces, and then 13 other countries around the globe. So I just wanted to point out that earlier this year and last year, we worked with Stiletto Make a Point Consulting on a benchmarking survey, and the results are available on the AURP website. If you looked at them earlier this year, I'd encourage you to circle back because there has been additional information that has been added into that. So there's occupancies, square footage, different rate structures. So really a true benchmarking among all of our members. So I encourage you again to circle back to that. So today's gathering is one in a series of our AURP tech-based economic development, TBED, communities of practice webinars and peer group roundtables. And as Jerry said to a few of us earlier, through AURP's subcontractor relationship with SSTI, AURP is building a community of practice to increase the capacity of EDA grantees to increase their greater impacts within their regional innovation economies. So the goal of this community is to identify and distribute best practices in structuring, measuring, and planning these TBED initiatives, plus to overall, just like AURP, to foster a community for these grantees through varied types of TBED activities and targeted audiences. So these are some of the roundtables and different webinars that we have coming up through the end of the year. The next one is in August, our roundtable. I know it's on the right, but that's going to be on strategies and partnerships of elevating from an R2 to an R1 institution. And we'll be announcing some of those speakers later in the next couple of weeks. And then in September and in November or October, excuse me, we have some additional webinars coming up and we'll have more information on those too. So we encourage you to attend. So as we begin today's webinar, we'll be hearing from 3 of our AURP members on their varied programs and strategies to attract and maintain the human talent that is critical to grow and sustain these communities of innovation. We can't move forward with the innovation that's there without the people to do the varied roles that are needed. So we'll have some brief case studies from each of our 30 speakers, and then we'll encourage you to turn on your videos and mics for some Q&A discussion as a pure roundtable, not only with the panelists, but among each other. We'll have a few questions to start out with, but again, we encourage you to participate. So Diana and Shelby on our team will be assisting with your mics to help avoid with any distraction as we start up today. So with me today, I have Marcel Johnson with Port San Antonio. He's Senior Vice President for Talent and Technology Scouting and Identification. I love that title. We have Elizabeth Pollard, CEO and President of the Foundation at Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. And then we have Tommy Luginbill. He's Executive Director of Pinkney Innovation Complex for Science and Technology at Montgomery College. So got that one down. We got it all out. So again, I appreciate you all joining us on our Communities of Innovation discussions today. And Marcel, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit about Port San Antonio, what we're doing to both develop, attract, and cultivate a workforce pipeline on our campus. So next slide. First thing I'd like to do is just tell you a little bit about us. First, the name Port San Antonio, I realize, is a misnomer. We are not a port in the traditional sense. I think about ports, I think nautical shipping, I think waterways, and coastal areas, which we are, none of which I would say describes our campus. We're the former Kelly Air Force Base that has been repurposed for commercial and industrial use. Kelly effectively closed in 2001. And since then, we have been in the business of reusing that 1,900 acre to property to attract industry and to grow our economy and essentially replace the jobs that were lost when Kelly closed. Next slide. Over the past 7 years, we've embarked on this, what we call connecting strategy. And so we're delving into what we call a tech port, which more accurately describes who we are and what we do. On our campus, we have about 85 tenants. We are a landlord in the sense that we manage the property and we manage the improvements on it, but we use the real estate as a tool, again, to attract industry. And we play a role more than just a landlord. We try to support our tenants in ways that I'll describe here in a little bit, but just know that we're a $5.6 billion economic generator. Next slide. Over the past 20 years of our existence, we've had about over $1 billion of capital improvement investments. And since 2017, again, since we embarked on this tech port strategy, highlighting the technologies and capabilities that have existed in San Antonio and on our campus for quite a while, we brought that to the forefront. And in doing so, we've been able to really capture a lot of interest from industry, from academia, and certainly our government partners, all of which, again, have existed on our campus for quite a while. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we've got about 85 companies that employ about 18,000 people. Many of the jobs are in industries that are legacy to our site: aerospace, aircraft maintenance, and modernization being chief among them. But we also have a large cybersecurity presence in the vein of Joint Base San Antonio, which houses Air Force Cyber. But they also have a number of other DoD operations, federal organizations such as the Department of Energy, DHS, NSA, a lot of the alphabets that I can go on and on describing. But to a man, we also have a growing robotics industry, companies that are doing work in sensors, technology, machine learning. And because we live in a connected world, a systems world, none of these are stovepipe industry sectors. They all kind of rely on or depend on technologies from other places. They're all tech driven. And so in that regard, we embarked on a strategy to try to cultivate connections, collaborations, and convergences by creating a common spaces on our campus. Next slide. The main one big project we completed about 2 years ago is that Boeing Center that you see on the left side of the screen. That is a multi-purpose, multi-use building that houses an actual arena for concerts and special student STEM-related competitions such as robotics, cybersecurity, and even esports and e-gaming events. It's meant to attract people that would otherwise not come to the building. But within that space, we also have a co-working space in the form of a Capital Factory. They're a venture capital group that's based in Austin, Texas. They also have a presence in Houston and Dallas, but in San Antonio, they have an area that focuses on defense innovation. Next to that, within the Boeing Center, we have a museum for science and technology. It's referred to as the San Antonio Museum for Science and Technology. Within it, it has the Boeing Adventure. So it's a place that Boeing has set up a huge display and a number of interactives that tell the story of the entire Boeing enterprise, as well as the work that they do in San Antonio, performing maintenance and, again, modernization on a number of airplane platforms. But it gives people a sense of the career opportunities, the pathways. The interactives actually have actual employees that talk about what inspired them and what they did to become where they are and what describing who they things they do on a day-to-day. And throughout the museum space, that's also known as Area 21, we have a a number of displays that exemplify what our tenants are doing, many of which have traditionally been working in classified access control facilities, really restricted from the public. But this gives them a chance to showcase what they do in a public domain. So young people there are a number of school groups that come throughout the year on school field trips. They have meetups, industry meetups, and social events within the space. Right now, they're hosting about 50 different STEM summer camps for K through 12 students within that space and another area on our site. And that's just our way, again, to bring people from different backgrounds, different areas into a common space where they can, again, network and work together. So these images actually show things that occur within the Boeing Center itself. Next slide, please. So talent is a big focus. The technologies that are being carried out on our campus are ones that are really fascinating too. Here again are examples of companies that are doing some really interesting work in the area of robotics and, again, sensors technology. One company that's transforming the logistics industry with the putting robots in fulfillment centers managed by Amazon and FedEx around the world, really taking the human element out, but making using autonomous tools to make those jobs that are high touch, high labor, and high turnover less of a problem for the owners. Then we've got companies like the one in the lower left corner, Zyrec. They're a company based in the Netherlands, but they're headquartered, their U.S. presence is here on San Antonio. They use a laser ablation tool to depaint aircraft and make that process a lot cleaner, a lot more environmentally friendly, less touch labor. And so it's one that saves time, allows the aircraft to get back into service in a fraction of the time that using solvents and the other messy fluids that they normally use, they can get that back into service quicker. But then going around, like I said, we've got companies doing work in the medical field, and all of these technologies that are on our campus are ones that are kind of cross sectors, if you will, and they're not unique to just one stovepipe industry. So I'll talk about that later, but next slide. And then the last piece is showcasing and showing off what they do. I mentioned a key part of our campus includes a co-working space for startups and early stage companies. Everyone wants to commercialize and scale up. We have a number of customers on our campus, larger companies and federal agencies that also want to know, hey, what's out there? What capabilities exist? They want to acquire, partner, and in some cases, bring on the talent that develop these tools. So we have, again, within the Boeing Center and throughout our campus, opportunities for companies to both show what they can do or display and demonstrate work that they've been working on. They build prototypes and sometimes jointly venture on projects to pursue work and opportunities in a host of fields. But overall, ours is a rather unique situation. We realize there's not a lot of places that have the concentration of these disparate industries, and not only just concentration, but long histories and legacies of work in our area. The cyber operations, which really stem from the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance work that dates back to World War II in San Antonio. I mentioned aerospace. Kelly Airfield was the very first airfield for the Army Air Corps. So dating back to 1917, very beginning of military aviation. And then we've got companies that, again, are looking to partner and joint venture. And so we avail ourselves to the world as a place to connect with opportunities, workforce, talent, and otherwise. So I'll stop there because frankly, I can drone on for a very long time about everything that I just touched upon. But I'm happy to stop and transition, answer questions now or later. But again, I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about who we are and what we're doing in San Antonio.
Thanks, Marcel. I really appreciate that. I know we're going to move on to Elizabeth Pollard and hear from her just a little bit about Oklahoma State University and all the programming that they have going on there too. So Elizabeth?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Vicki, for having me today. I'm really excited to be here with everyone. If we can move to the next slide. So I joined OSU a year ago to reimagine the OSU Research Foundation, and today we are the Innovation Foundation at OSU. Next slide. Our mission is really to maximize OSU's assets in advanced mobility, energy, agriculture, and One Health by connecting innovation to commercialization. And so the Innovation Foundation encompasses all of those areas, really so that we function as a startup organization and are looking to build our assets so that we can return that benefit to the university and to all of the constituents that we support and provide services to as a land-grant university. Next slide. So the way we thought about this is that we took 3 of our applied research institutes and put them under the umbrella of the Innovation Foundation: the Ham Institute for American Energy, the Oklahoma Aerospace Institute for Research and Education, and the Human Performance and Nutrition Research Institute. We put them on a foundation of what we call Cowboy Enterprises, which is our Office of Technology Commercialization, Innovation Accelerator, Cowboy Technologies, which is a LLC that makes equity investments in technology spinning out of the university. And we're now beginning to look at spin-ins as well. And then an app center to support that with technology. A 500-acre innovation park, and we're a new member of AURP, so excited to be with all of you for the first time, where we have brought together different assets that really are going to look at everything from education to collaboration and then to tech investment. And then we embody all of this within shared services. So think of all of this as business units supported by shared services in the company that are really providing governance, support around partnerships, services or infrastructure to support what we're doing, from a sequencing facility and biorepository to data centers, and then support all that through sponsored research and other fundraising endeavors. Next slide. Briefly, the Oklahoma Aerospace Institute, that we call OAIR, is really a team of engineers that is structured differently than our colleges, and they're incented differently to operate much more like a startup organization. And they focus on not only sponsored research endeavors, but also fee-for-service and working with major advanced mobility partners across the globe to help move technology forward. Next slide. We have Human Performance and Nutrition Research Institute that is really looking at human performance across multiple areas, from athletics to nutrition to even athletes in space, and looking at how the influence of our environment is playing a role on things like longevity and human performance. Next slide. And the Ham Institute for American Energy, which is really looking at a next generation of affordable and clean energy, not just in the area of fossil fuels, where Oklahoma has had a major presence, but in other areas as well. And thinking about how we create policy to continue to drive that forward, but also applied research to ensure energy security. And last but not least, next slide. And we tie this all together across an innovation park. All of our assets in these applied research institutes are across our state, and we're collaborating closely with everything from our military installations to our tribal partners, as well as across other innovation districts that exist. But at the park in Stillwater that we actually have under development, we're thinking about how do we really create uniqueness in workforce development. And there we've brought together 4 different parcels of land that are all connected. Our student farm, our botanic gardens, our agronomy station, and what we call Innovation Park. And across those 4 areas, we're looking at how we can create unique internships, for instance, in our student farm, where we are providing students the opportunity to grow fresh produce, which we supply out through food banks in a couple counties today. We hope to be able to supply the whole state, where they can learn about advanced agricultural programs, as well as how to actually meet the needs of the underserved. We're working with the agronomy station on education capabilities and how we can tie in the importance of workforce in farming and meeting the needs of feeding the world. In our botanic gardens, we're looking at not only the excitement of horticulture as a museum in and of its own, but looking at STEAM and how do we leverage sight and sound to help people understand the impact of AI and how it can be used with nature and education. And then our tech part, where we're working on infrastructure and building that out in ways that can support private partnerships. For instance, putting in place 3 major data centers, including an NSF supercomputer that was funded a year and a half ago, internet exchange point that will really allow us to hook into data centers and provide last mile support to the communities we serve in regard to everything from education for workforce development to telemed, as well as helping to create smart city infrastructure so that we can really develop our drone and advanced mobility technologies and showcase those for the future engineers that we hope will be attracted to our state and to OSU and to the companies that we're supporting. So I'll stop there and look forward to having further discussion on some of the questions coming ahead about how we're really impacting workforce and economic development, not only at OSU, but across our state of Oklahoma.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was really just great. I appreciate that. So now we're going to turn it over to Tommy Luginbill from Pinkney.
So you don't have to worry about it, but it's Luginbill.
Okay, I'm sorry, I did say that. Thank you.
That's
Sorry
okay.
about that.
I've gotten like every variation of it known to man, and there's also another version of me. So he's a sports commentator, and he kind of looks like me.
Okay.
And he is related to me. So,
nice.
But it's all good. So you guys were kind enough to take the last minute request from us. We wanted to show a video, and this kind of is an example of a very recent, but also I think a very good example of a use case and something that we're doing that hopefully helps shed light for other folks too. So if you could play it, I would very much appreciate it.
Montgomery College is thrilled to have Hughes Network Systems located at the Pinkney Innovation Center for Science and Technology on our Germantown campus. Partnerships that unite businesses, education, and student talent maximize all of our impacts on the community.
We are really looking forward to growing the partnership with Hughes, advancing opportunities for students, as well as helping with training of the next workforce.
The partnership between Hughes and Montgomery College exemplifies the synergy between academia and industry, with a shared goal of nurturing talent and driving innovation.
The location of the manufacturing facility on the Germantown campus eliminates an access barrier for many of our students. Expanding access to opportunities like internships and apprenticeships better prepare our students for the jobs of tomorrow.
We were able to not only find ourselves in partnership, but a partnership with Hughes Network Systems to help them deliver a brand new state-of-the-art 140,000 square foot manufacturing facility for their needs.
We're really excited to have been a small participant in this important project that I think will really aid the Montgomery County community and in particular the Montgomery College students for decades to come.
This facility offers new opportunities for non-traditional students and traditional students. High-tech manufacturing is the wave of the future, and now students at Montgomery College have a chance to participate in their own future.
At Hughes, we make connections and look forward to the opportunity to connect with the next generation of industry leaders. We view this as a key opportunity for us and a key opportunity for young people that want to learn a new skill, a new trade, or a new technology.
On behalf of PICMC, we would like to thank all of our partners.
On behalf of the development team, we'd like to offer our gratitude and thanks to PICMC and Montgomery College for their partnership and collaboration to allow us to work with Hughes Network Systems.
On behalf of PICMC and Montgomery College, it's my pleasure to thank Hughes
for their continued partnership.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to all of the partners who have continued to support the college over the years. Thank you. All right, so that includes AURP, by the way. So as an introduction to myself, but also using that video as a caveat, and there we go, there's me. Yeah, so PICMC, and we were talking about this earlier, is a research park that's in Germantown, Maryland, but it's on the campus of a community college or junior college. And I believe for now, and I think this hopefully changes, we're the only community college that's a member of AURP, which they verified for me like 20 minutes ago, so that still counts. So I'm relatively new to this role. I can't say that much longer. It's been 5 months since I've been here, and so with me today is Melanie. And Melanie, I'm not going to make you talk, don't worry. But she's on the call today because she's been here for 8 years. And so Melanie has really watched the PICMC campus grow from really just an idea into what it is today. So if we could start my slides, then I can start to make sense out of some of this. So I think this is a good starter slide, and I'm sorry that the color is a little bold in the background, but that's our purple here at MC. But this is a relatively recent photo, but you can see that we actually have a lot of space. And so PICMC was started as a arrangement between Montgomery County here in Maryland and Montgomery College. So one of the reasons that we're unique in being a community college that has a technology park is in fact because of, well, one, Montgomery College is such a large junior college, but two, because of the resources that surround us. And so I can't exactly see it on this, but one of our very, very close next door neighbors is the Department of Energy. And then down the road are places like NIST and NIH and things like that. So if we could go to the next slide for me, please. So as far as PICMC over the last decade, and then since I've been here, and then moving into the future, and there's really 3 pillars. And this is not only from me, but this is also from the chairwoman of our board, because we do have a board and an administration that we work with. So the 3 pillars that she talks about are, what are the keys to success? Strong foundation, strategic alignment, and sustainable growth. And she has the arrow going both ways, which I like. But for purposes of if there's anyone on this call that's just starting a tech park or they're thinking about it, it's my personal belief that you would start on the left and move to the right. So you got to have the foundation, then you got to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and then you grow. And then granted, some of the bigger schools that are on this call, they probably already know this, but each level up, you're probably starting back over again, right? Foundation, alignment, growth, and then you just kind of keep going up, just like a staircase. So next slide for me, please. So I'm sharing this because one of the things that we had talked about was what's next for us, and I'm excited because I heard somebody else say data centers. And so the thing to comment on, especially while I have the floor, is because we're a community college and because we're not necessarily in the same mission as a 4-year school, we have to be careful about what it is that that we're going to do. And so there's really 2 things that I think help PICMC stand out as a park. One is there's a very, very big emphasis on workforce development, and that would go towards the video that you saw, which the ribbon cutting for a very large manufacturing plant. And so that's for high-tech jobs that are in manufacturing, but not necessarily for folks that want to get a 4-year degree. So with that project being completed this year, the question becomes, what's next? And again, trying to figure out, where does a community college research park fit in? We don't do research, right? So we don't do like actual publications of research. So how can we serve the community, or how can we attract other businesses? And it always comes back to infrastructure, right? So before I even got here, the biggest resource that we had was land. And that land was able to attract very large tenants, which I'll talk about on the next page. But for me, and what's next, AI is coming. It's already here. Data centers have always been a big thing for the last 20 years. But where we're located, it's a very not in my backyard type of place to live. And I can say that because I was born here. And so the idea of us putting a data center in our county is insane. And so for our next project, the hope is that we do a modular data center. And so there's a Maryland company that's building modular data centers, and the hope is to bring one of them to campus so that the tenants and also the future tenants can start to tap into AI. Next slide, please. So what do we actually have, right? So for people that are listening, the question always becomes, okay, is there a crossover? The very first tenant, and this was the anchor tenant, which I'm still flabbergasted by, is a very large hospital. So if you've ever been to the Washington, D.C. region, we have the Holy Cross Hospital Network, and their newest hospital, which is about 10 years old now, is actually on campus here. They just went through a merger, so they're now called Trinity Health. So they've become an even larger anchor tenant. And for anyone who potentially is launching a tech park, the arrangement that I think was very advantageous for us was there was obviously a discounted rate, but there was a prepaid rent for 99 years. And that prepaid rent took a lot, right? It took a lot of effort to get that done and a lot of resources to get it done, but that is what sparked this entire park into existence. There's also a medical center, which is kind of funny when I come to work and people I know are just going to the doctor's office. There's a very large incubator that the county or local county runs. And then the last one is with the video that you saw. And so that would be strictly manufacturing in the aerospace industry. Next slide, please. So this is my contact, and you can either contact me or Melanie. And I know that we're gonna have an open floor, so I'm happy to answer any other questions. But I just want to say thanks to AURP for having us today, because one of the biggest things that I think I learned when we went down to AURP had an event down in Arizona was storytelling, right? That was the whole theme of the event. And I honestly think that one of the reasons that I've been so happy for these first 6 months here is because the folks before me, they did a really good job of the storytelling. So testimonials, documents, just keeping track of everything, pictures, right? So all these things come together, and I got very fortunate to walk into this position, and the future should hopefully bring some more great things. And looking forward to this panel, and appreciate you guys giving me the time.
Well, that was great. Thank you, Tommy, and Elizabeth and Marcel. I think that was really great to kind of set up the conversation for today. So Shelby, do you want to stop sharing the screen? Thank you. And I encourage others to turn on their cameras and unmute their mics. I just wanted to open up. Does anybody have any questions they want to start with? Or I have a few questions to start as well. No, I'm going to start it out. So I think you all are getting, and if you haven't been around AURP very long, but we have a motto that we use a lot, and it is, if you've seen one research park or innovation district, you've seen only one research park or innovation district. And I think that we just heard that for the last few minutes, that everybody is so unique. And I was sharing that with each of our speakers today, that was why I picked you. You are all so different and kind of represent our AURP community. So, and our other part of our network is imitation is the highest form of flattery too. So, right? So I'm going to ask, what is the most unique or unconventional approach your community has taken to enhance workforce retention, and what inspired that approach? So I'm going to start out with our speakers first, but I might pick on a few of you attending today as well. So Marcel.
So we have a number of examples. So our campus has grown. We've added 9,000 new jobs, mostly in the tech sector on our campus over the past 7 years. So workforce has been a challenge, and we've been creative, both ourselves and working with our tenants. Again, we're more than just a landlord, so we get creative in that. But there, I mentioned the Boeing Center. That is a $74 million investment in what we describe as an inspiration center for the community. It's structured in such a way that it's self-sufficient. The revenues that come from the events help pay the note on the building. We share the profits with a manager of the facility, third party, which is they're experts in booking and arranging these types of things that are popular with the public. And then our portion, 100% goes towards an education foundation called the Kelly Heritage Foundation. It supports 3 primary nonprofits that give access, scholarships, and opportunities for people to go into some distinct fields and careers that are in demand on our campus primarily, but STEM related in general. And then many of our tenants, we've partnered with them in setting up workforce training programs specific to the work that they need to bring on board. Standard Aero, we supported them in the launch of a type of airframe and power plant mechanics training program, one that they fully fund. Because of support from the port, they're able to do something that will now serve as a model for them in training workers for sites all around the country and eventually around the globe. But they're just completing year 1 of this training program, which, as I said, is like a 12-week mechanics training program. But then beyond that, they are entering into an apprenticeship program. But it's the kind of creative type of allowances that they're allowed to do within our campus and on our site because of the relationship we have with them. And as I mentioned earlier, and I'm not going to get too far in the weeds and details, but we use our real estate as a tool. A lot of what we do, we try to drive and create an environment that's attractive to industry, academia, and government service organizations. And then we try to, tap on to that, again, bringing in creating ways for talent to come to the place. Because again, if they don't know about these opportunities, how else do you reach that audience or that market? And oh, by the way, we showcase in some dynamic ways that make people of all ages say, oh, wow, that's impressive. Oh, wow, I didn't know that was going on in San Antonio. Oh, wow, I didn't know that was going on in just a few miles from where I live. And so we're in the inspiration business more than anything. And we always try to find ways to facilitate relationships and collaborations, because we believe if you get smart people together, good things will happen. And, that's where innovation occurs.
I love that. And I love the inspiration. Yes, that's what we're all about. That's true. So Tommy, how about you?
Yes.
Some unique programming. I remember your predecessor always claiming that you have the most diverse community college probably in the nation.
Well, I mean, I guess I could pull on that thread. Melanie can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that Montgomery College is the only official institute of higher learning in the state that supports the Latino population. And so that draws in a large demographic from that population. And I know for a fact that the age range that we have is also a critical factor. And so if you're talking about workforce, because we do have students that are literally just coming out of high school, and then we also have a lot of veteran students who are coming back with maybe like a GI Bill, maybe not, maybe they just want a career change. And that happens quite often too, believe it or not, in the biotech and pharmaceutical industry. So you have this very interesting and eclectic group of students, young, old. It's pretty much 50-50 male, female, but also extremely diverse. And so the other thing that lends itself to that is the fact that our campus does have where I'm sitting here in Germantown, but also we have a campus on the complete other side of the county. And so if we're doing something here that maybe they're not doing over there, it always draws folks in. And the other thing that's unique about that is it means that we have a very robust workforce development department because we're a community college. And so, you know, one of the things that Martha and Melanie did was early on, they started to put people on our board of directors that were from either the internal workforce development arm or just from local businesses. And so the nice thing that I walked into was when was in the first meeting when one of the people on the board for PICMC was an actual student, and then everybody else was like either an employee of the college or someone who runs a business locally or someone who's an executive at a business. So it was just kind of this natural way of getting people to mingle together. But also, I will say it gives two perspectives. So it gives the perspective of the people who are running the businesses, and then the fact that you actually have a student on the board who can say, yeah, all those things that you guys are talking about doing are nice, but none of my friends are going to want to work at a company that does X, right? And he just did this. So our most recent one is now leaving. He got a full scholarship to University of Maryland. But he would do that all the time. And he would even email me and he'd say, hey, I didn't want to be impolite during the meeting, but this conversation that everyone was having about X is meaningless because I can tell you none of the young people here want to do that. So that's one way that I think we've been able to, like you said, with Martha, been able to work with the diversity of the school and the population. And, you know, there's many different ways to try to do that.
Oh, that's fascinating. I hadn't heard that before. That's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Elizabeth, how has EDA funding impacted your university's success in creating, can you hear me?
Yes.
In creating tech development and a region of excellence, excuse me.
Well, thank you. And this was a perfect setup by my two other speakers today. So thank you. You know, I think that if you look across what we're trying to do of everything from invention to commercialization, we certainly have been able to leverage EDA in multiple ways. And when I speak on behalf of OSU, I also want to say that we're partnering very closely with our state and other innovation districts and centers to really drive forward the strategy of what we can do with the money that we can get from our federal programs to really you know, raise the tide across our whole state in the areas of advanced mobility, energy, and One Health. So, for instance, we've leveraged university center grants to really help with that market match between invention that's coming out of the universities to actually help them get out into the market and build a workforce that way in the more traditional way. But also, Oklahoma has been the recipient of 2 Build Back Better regional center awards. One focused in our innovation district in Oklahoma City with our Economic Development Foundation. And that really has been focused around how do we bolster workforce through things such as a biopharmaceutical manufacturing training program. And so that's been really exciting where the universities have come alongside to help with those kind of endeavors. but also in working across the state with our tribal partners, such as our Indian Nations Council of Governments, with Tulsa Innovation Labs, which has been focused on equity across the Tulsa region, to create really accelerator strategy in the area of aerospace with an actual what we call launch pad to help accelerate technology and to help the private sector get technology to market faster and drive workforce. So EDA has been really important to our state in the last couple of years and has provided significant funding to get these projects off the ground. And last but not least, I'll also say that Oklahoma is unique in that we have the Oklahoma Center for the Advancement of Science and Technology. And through federal dollars, you know, from Small Business Credit Initiative, for instance, putting funding into the state, they've been able to help deploy gap funding through a fund-of-fund strategy with venture capital, but also a credit initiative for those companies that can't get funding. And that's driving workforce, and that's in partnership with internships that are happening at our universities. And so it's really that interconnectedness of working across community to make it happen. And I'm really proud of what our state has been able to do in that regard.
Right. That's great. It is really great. Again, this is really a roundtable format. So does anybody else have any questions or anything they want to bring up that's unique from their communities?
I just
Vicki,
think from our, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to answer. Someone put into the chat asking me if the Innovation Foundation was separate nonprofit or part of OSU. And I would say both and, in that it is a separate nonprofit, but the members of the corporation of the nonprofit are part of our Board of Regents, our university leadership, as well as independent directors. And so it makes us fully integrated in a unique way. Thanks for that question.
So to tack on to that, we have a similar but slightly different format. So independent nonprofit, also associated with the school. I will say, I'll say it, I won't make Elizabeth say it. Sometimes the fact that you're independent but also a part of the school causes a little confusion, and in terms of like making sure everyone is aligned, right? So when the board has its independence, sometimes they'll get set in one direction. My phone keeps ringing, I'm sorry. But then sometimes the school has their own direction, and it sometimes causes challenges.
Hey, I'm curious, just a question, and I'll direct this at Elizabeth. I'm wondering if you find that there are any unique challenges getting an institution who's primarily focused on four-year, degree-seeking students to really kind of lean into engaging in workforce development that's something less than the four-year degree program. I know you talked about kind of biomanufacturing kind of lab training programs. What role does the institution see that it plays, and are there any lessons learned from trying to figure out how it can lean into workforce development programs other than educating four-year students?
That's a great question. So because of our land grant mission, we work across, we have an extension program which we tie together Polytech with Career Tech to be able to begin to facilitate exactly what you're speaking to. And so all of that programming is very important to us, and we have formal programs in place to address so that we are really dealing not only with K through 20 STEM education, but we're also providing not only undergraduate degrees, but advanced degrees. We, for instance, offer one of the only PhD in drone technology. So those are the kind of things we're thinking about. But when we think about education, we are thinking about that experiential learning, and we're thinking about how do we demonstrate how, whether it's a kindergartner or whether it's somebody who's in an advanced degree, can really apply technology to a problem that's a real world problem and that can create an opportunity for them in their career development.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hey there.
Hi.
I have a question for the group, if that's okay.
Yeah.
This is the right time.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Leah Burton. You could probably tell that from the name on the screen there, and I work for a company called SAS Institute. One of the things that I have seen over the last couple of years throughout the country is an increased attention to redeveloping or reorganizing workforce boards and workforce development throughout states. So you see like the state of Ohio has restructured and renamed their workforce board, now their Division of Education and Workforce. You see this in Georgia, in South Carolina, and Louisiana, and lots of other states. And so I'm wondering how you, in your individual states and at your institutions, are seeing any increased attention to reworking how we have thought about workforce boards in the past, and if you're participating in those discussions, and how the skills that you are developing are mapping to the highest demand jobs throughout your state, and maybe your states have different ways of looking at that.
So I'll touch on this. So I had a really good professor in grad school. It's like over 10 years ago. And I promise this is topical to your question, but let me get to it. So in our last class, before we all got our graduate degree, he said to us, he said, hey, if any of you are programmers, coders, that's awesome. And he said, good for you. He said, but no one's going to need you in 10 years to do any coding. And he said, you better start working on other skills that have to do with collaboration, diplomacy, and emotional intelligence. And everybody was like, what? Like everyone's getting a job in coding and software engineering, and that's where all the money is. And he said, mark my words, the code and the computers will get so good that they'll do the work of the coder. And he was right. Because look where we are. Look where we are with ChatGPT and machine learning. And this is true also for I've seen in Maryland, and I'll give you a very specific example. We went into AstraZeneca last week, and we point blank asked them, what is it that you would like to see in the next generation's workforce? And what they said was, these young people are really good at taking tests, and they're really good at regurgitating information. They're not as good at problem solving on the fly and coming up with critical thinking and having that skill set. So I personally, and there's other people from Maryland on this call who can probably chime in, but I personally have seen a lot more emphasis on workforce that isn't so cookie cutter, and it is more about workers who are adaptable, who don't necessarily have a very specific skill set, but have the ability to learn fast and also adapt. And so I've seen that reflected in our state, and I'm not sure about the others. So
yeah, I'll go next. Prior to joining OSU, I served on Governor Stitt's cabinet as Secretary of Science and Innovation and helped to drive workforce and economic development initiatives. And one of the things that we have done is not only, as I mentioned, around the Oklahoma Center for the Advancement of Science and Technology, and aligning capital and programs for economic development and workforce development through internship programs, but we have also focused on having a technology strategic plan for the state, which was published in 2021. We're in the 4th year of it now. And I'm very excited to say it aligned very nicely with the areas that OSU and OU are focused on, which are around advanced mobility, energy, and health, and agriculture falling under life sciences. And I think it's really important to be focused on the programs that you really want to invest in and drive for our economic development and workforce development, because you can't be all things to all people. And when you do that, it can really help to drive initiatives such as, legislation, which makes it easier to have nursing programs across the state so that you can get more nurses to work, especially in a pandemic, or whether it's engineering programs that enable us to be able to supply workforce for our military installations across our state. We have Tinker Air Force Base, which is the largest Air Force mechanic base in the world. And so those kind of things, those programs have been really important. But, I would summarize by saying you need to be focused. You need to be really honest about what it is you can achieve. And then you need to work really hard across your state or region to align all of the players so that you can have that outcome. And so it's been an exciting time for us in that regard. And we don't have it perfect, but we're working really hard together to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'd love
And
to
like,
add, Marcel, can I jump in here real quick? Because I work with Elizabeth in Oklahoma, and just wanted to say that what she's really saying is that we work a lot together, and why that's so important is because it is a whole approach of government, academia, and industry. And I'm the CFO for the innovation district that she so kindly spoke of, that is standing up BioTC, the training facility. And as we like to say, we're not an or proposition, we're an and proposition. We aren't replacing 4-year degreed scientists or 6-year PhD scientists. We are filling a gap in the industry for technician level positions that historically have needed 2-year degrees or 2 to 3 years of experience, because that's the only option that's been out there. Now they will be able to be rapidly trained in a 2 to 3 week hands-on training with industry level equipment, production scale equipment. So we just are creating an alternative. Again, we're not replacing, we're just listening to the industry. And, also as part of, we talked about the pandemic preparedness and relief organization with the federal government. We're, in communication with them about if that situation should arise again, how could our ecosystem support? Well, if you can rapidly train in 2 to 3 weeks, you have a foundation of workforce that doesn't exist everywhere. So it is innovation. And what that means is it's not been done before, right? We're doing new and different things, and we're looking to the future of how to do it differently. So the key for Oklahoma is together, and it's there's a place for everyone, and it's really listening to our industry as to what their needs are and how to meet those needs rapidly with the highest level of skill.
Well said.
Thank you. Sorry, Marcel.
Yeah.
no problem, no problem.
Were you going to add on to that, Marcel?
No, I won't. No, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Well, that was fantastic. That was really a great closing, because that's what AURP is all about, and bringing all these communities together to learn from one another. And it sounds like your community is doing that as well. So I know that I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I thank you all for being here today and sharing and talking about your communities and your workforce development and talent pipeline. So I thank you. So again, we have some other webinars coming up. One roundtable in August talking about an R2 institution that wants to elevate with their new president and administration to an R1. And then in September, we have space and aerospace. October, we have clean tech ecosystems. And then in November, open topic. So if you have something you want to talk about or learn from, please let me know. In August, we have the Clean Tech and Building Resiliency Caucus. More information will be shared about that later this month. But it will be about a 1.5-day program, and will be at the St. Gobain North American headquarters. So they actually have AIA CEs, they're a provider of those CEs there at that establishment. So let your design colleagues let them know that about that program as well. And then in November, we are so excited to have our conference in Arkansas. We've been learning so much about the Fayetteville and Bentonville ecosystem with the University of Arkansas. So I do encourage you to make your plans early. Hotel is open, and encourage you with their regional airport to look into your flights as well. The registration and agenda will be announced next week, so we're really excited about that, and just really a great program. So I know you'll have a good time there too. So I hope to see you at future webinars and roundtables and in-person events. And again, if you have topics or speakers that you'd like to hear from in the future, please feel free to share that along to me or Diana or Shelby, and we'll take it from there. So look forward to connecting with you and learning more about your TBED community. Thank you.